In a previous video, I shared fun facts about Final Fantasy VI, so I got more! This time from the actual developers of the game from interviews from before the game came out. So without further ado, let's get into it. You remember that enemy Leafer that you fight in the beginning, right? Well, it was modeled after Hitoshi Sasaki's the monster sprite and graphics designer's pet rabbit, to which he says, "The monster rabbit that appears in the beginning was modeled after my pet rabbit." Now, let's talk about Terra. In the interview, Sakaguchi was asked, "How did you come up with the character of Terra?" To which he says, "From the beginning, we knew she would be half human, half Esper. There was also a time when she was actually a slightly older male character." And they asked, "What is Terra's role in the story?" To which he says, "In the first half of the game, her personality is very passive. We did that because we wanted to show her growth as the story progresses. In the process of being manipulated and used by others, she gradually awakens to her own destiny. The awakening of the self of one's own humanity, those are her themes." Were there any major changes to her character during development? Sakaguchi says, "At the end of the game, we originally were going to have Terra disappear along with all the other Espers. We thought it would be a waste, though, to have Terra erased just like that when she had awoken to her humanity. So instead, we made her lose her magic powers and remain in the world." Next, let's talk about Locke. They asked, "What was Locke like in the beginning of the development?" They said, "During the planning phase, he was a more mysterious, dark even, character, older, and he could wield the runic skill. His relationship with Terra was different too. He was her friend, and in some ways, rival. As we solidified his character, however, his personality became more open, and we also transferred the runic ability over to Celeste. Ultimately, he became more traditionally boyish and a character who helps propel the storyline forward." Can you tell us more about Locke's relationship with Rachel, how they met? From an early age, Locke had traveled the world with his father, a treasure hunter. After his father's death, Locke was treated like a petty thief by everyone except Rachel, who still called him a treasure hunter. But Rachel's own father didn't approve of him. Locke ventured into a dangerous cave in search of a great treasure that would prove he was more than just a thief. He had no way of knowing what terrible fate would befall Rachel in his absence. Next, let's talk about Edgar and Sabin. They asked, "Can you tell us about the Figaro brothers' backstory?" Kaori Tanaka says, "In the beginning of the planning, Edgar was the stereotypical sleazeball, but I thought it was too cliched, so I removed that aspect of his personality. As for his love of women, because he lost his mother as an infant, he has an especially strong attachment to women generally. Moreover, his first crush and love, an older woman, one of his father's cousins to be exact, was always firm in telling him he must grow up to be a good man. So Edgar studied with great fervor the art of chivalry. Ultimately, this woman was killed in a political rivalry, and Edgar's feelings toward her remained forever unrequited. Her spiritedness and lively wit, however, left their mark on Edgar and have influenced his personal vision of the ideal woman. He's a little bit different from the typical lady killer character because he was written by a woman. So if anyone notices that, I'll be very happy." Sabin, Gao, and Cyan act as a surrogate family for each other. It's two children who have lost their fathers and one father who lost his child. Sabin, in particular, sees an aspect of himself in Gao, and they both share that connection to nature and what is natural. Terra senses that in Sabin when she calls him a docile bear. And he does kind of look like a big cuddly bear, doesn't he? During the development for the Zen event in the World of Ruin, originally, if the time had ran out, Sabin would actually die. Then, if you come back to Zen with Edgar in your party, it would trigger a scene with Edgar wandering forlornly around Zen in the middle of the night, searching through the rubble in vain for his brother. I'm coming to save you. But we decided that the World of Ruin already had enough dark stories, and changed it for the final version of the game. For Sabin fans, it's a good thing we did. Why does Edgar wear that blue ribbon in his long hair? Figaro is a desert country, so the colors yellow, symbolizing the sun, and blue, symbolizing water, are sacred colors. As you can see, then, by wearing a blue ribbon in his golden hair, he's striking a dignified pose for the royalty. If he's so strong, why is Sabin so afraid of squirrels? When he was a kid, he tried to give one of them a nut, and it bit his finger. Edgar's hobby is listed as rearranging the furniture in his bedroom. Why? By changing the layout of his room, it's an easy way to de-stress and refresh his state of mind. By the way, his current room is done in a safari style, and he sleeps with lion paw slippers. Edgar and Sabin are supposed to be twins, but they don't look like each other. I think they do. When Edgar got older, he started working out and developing his body, becoming more like Sabin. If Edgar not had inherited the throne, what would he have done with his life? Become an airship mechanic, he loves machines. And didn't they used to name boats after women in the old days? What is his most precious memory of his father? His father's old saying for cheering up was, if you flip a coin and it comes up heads, something good will happen. In the ending, it shows the initials for Sabin and Edgar's middle names. What are they? Edgar is Ronnie and Sabin is Renee. Only their closest friends and family members are allowed to use those cherished nicknames. Even in the party, Realm is the only person who knows Edgar's middle name, and only Cyan and Gao know Sabin's. How did Realm learn Edgar's middle name? One day, Realm's companions asked her about the secret of her control technique. Realm replies, monsters have secret names. If you know a monster's true name, you can control its soul. Edgar was standing nearby and laughed when he heard that, saying, I have a secret too, you know, and he whispered it in Realm's ear. When and who was Sabin's first love? When Sabin was 5, the brothers saw a tantalizing wedding cake at their father and stepmother's wedding. Edgar said to Sabin, let's get married so we can cut the cake. And Sabin replied, yeah. Perhaps we could call that yeah his first love, maybe? Now let's talk about Celeste. They asked, tell us about Celeste's backstory. They said, in the very beginning of the development, Celeste was an Imperial Magitech Knight who pretends to be the player character's ally. Using magic requires a great deal of mental energy, and the mental strain of it causes Celeste to become unhinged, prone to sudden outbursts of tears and fits of hysteria. This state of mind strengthens her desire to find someone she could rely on. In comes Locke, who speaks to and treats her kindly. By the time she is supposed to betray everyone, Celeste realizes she had fallen in love with Locke, and the conflict tears her up inside. Why does the story start with Celeste in the world of Ruin? There's no central main character in Final Fantasy VI. All 12 of them are equally the main character. So starting with Celeste then just made sense in the overall flow of the story. We were concerned that if we started it with Terra, it would place too much relative importance on her story. Also, we wanted to give Terra some extra backstory and show what she had been up to since the world had been destroyed. Next, let's talk about Cyan. They asked, did Cyan's character change at all? They said, during the development, there was another character named Angela, who acted like a stereotypical big sister to Cyan. She wielded a whip. She would half-jokingly flirt with Cyan, and he would always brush it off and cringe at her attention. But later, when he was alone, he'd pause and flatter himself to think it was all true. It allowed us to show a shy, private side of his character. There were never any actual romantic connections between the two, though. He remains loyal to his departed wife's memory. Next, let's talk about Gau. So they asked, how about Gau? Gau is not a main character in the sense that he's not really connected to the overarching story. His character is there to give a sense of vastness to the world. The reunion scene with his father was more detailed during development, and it also took place in the world of Balance, but it was basically the same scene. Now let's talk about Setzer. They asked, are there any interesting stories you have to share about developing Setzer? They said, the gambler job was actually one that we really pushed to have added in Final Fantasy V. As a job, though, it seemed to have too much personality, so we ended up not using it. In Final Fantasy VI, though, big characters with lots of personality were exactly what we wanted, so we brought the idea back. That's the origin of Setzer. How did he get those scars? Some were accidents on the airship, while others were occupational hazards. To Setzer, they're all testament to the times he risked his very life. Setzer joins the party equipped with a bandana, but when he takes it off, he can't re-equip it? Setzer is very particular about fashion, and he doesn't like to wear the same styles as everyone else. The bandana, you see, is Locke's signature piece of apparel. Plus, it looks really good on him. Once Setzer joins the party and he sees this, he loses his love for his bandana. Now let's talk about Strago. They asked, are there any interesting stories about Strago? He originally had a wife named Lara. She was 65 and a geomancer. They were always bickering. Lara would say, you're going to die before me. Strago says, what? You're the one with more wrinkles. But then later in a scene, Strago says, looks like I'll be the one dying first. In heaven or hell, I'll be waiting for you. Lara says, hey, you can't leave yet. What about all this debt? I'm going first. Let's talk about Umaro. They asked, finally, can you tell us about Gogo and Umaro? Umaro was originally a character who wandered around the world map. You could meet him in a random encounter and catch him with bait, much like the event with Gau on the Veldt. And finally, Gogo. During the development, Gogo was actually a lot harder to find. He was a mysterious character who wandered around the different pubs in the World of Ruin, disguised as one of the main characters who you hadn't yet got to join your party. For example, he might be disguised as Locke in one town, and if the players tried to talk to him thinking he was Locke, they'd only get rude, curt responses from him. After the player gets the real Locke, if they realize something is weird and come back to that pub and talk to the fake or disguised Locke, he would reveal his true self and join the party as Gogo. The pub he appeared at would change on a timer though, and he'd also change which person he was disguised as. Tracking him down would be very difficult. Thank you guys for watching. Did you learn anything? What is your favorite fact from this video? Let me know in the comments below. Catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlackOmen219. And I have a Discord. If you guys want to join it, you can find the link to it in the description down below. And until then, you guys, I will see you in the next one.